Hello! I was wondering if I might trouble you for a cup of strong black coffee, and in the process engage you with an anecdote of no small amusement.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode here at Nerd Herder. We're in the NerdyVerse series. We're finishing up our long journey through the Batmans. Finally, it feels like we've been on this journey for quite a while, talking to a lot of bats and a lot of men. There were nipples involved, but we're okay. And here we are now at the culmination of it all. We began this leading up to the release of The Batman. And it has been released. We have seen it with our eye holes, and we have loved it with our heart holes. And so, yes, what a journey we have ahead of us. I'm J-Dub. With me, as always,
I'm Vengeance.
is Vengeance Boop. Boop is feeling very vengeful and emo today.
You don't understand me. That's all I'm saying. It's like just
right. We and just leave them to be in their room as they lie on the floor with Kurt Cobain playing loudly in the background. It's been quite a journey. I've enjoyed how much highs, very little lows, just a lot of positivity and fun in this series. I don't know if you have any fond memories of the journey to Batmanhood.
Listen, man, there was a lot of nipples. Like so many nipples, so much talking.
We're very stuck on the nipples.
And you know what? We're better for it. You acknowledge the bat nipple, you grow to accept
we're all better for it. So and fun fact, Robert Pattinson, he did legally change his name, by the way.
That's true.
We were talking just the other day. He was upside down. We were having some coffee, and he mentioned that. He also mentioned that he apparently screen tested in his audition in the Val Kilmer suit. So Pattinson did get his bat nipples at one point, but
he should have kept them.
I was gonna say the cowards at WB, man, they took it away from him, but you know, you can't have everything all at once. We got Zoe Kravitz, so we can't be exactly too disappointed with everything that we got.
We did get Zoe Kravitz.
And just up top, want to, as we have been recently, remind you all that there is a wonderful little fan initiative going on called the Amidala Initiative. You can check the description for links to their social media, where you can check out 77 other podcasting creators who are coming together to support Equality Texas, doing all kinds of cool things to generate awareness and funds for this group that helps LGBTQ plus folks, especially trans and youth that are being unfortunately directly targeted by legislation right now in Texas. Also, all kinds of things going on down in Florida, and there is an Equality Florida as well that you can check out and whatnot. But definitely look into it if you can. A lot of money has been raised, a lot of awareness has been had, and it only continues if we keep that cycle going. So check out the Amidala Initiative, and like doing good just to do good is cool.
It's true. But spread the word if you can.
Yes. If you need one other reason to, there's all kinds of giveaways, all kinds of art and merchandise, all kinds of things. So benefit the cause, benefit yourself, however it gets done, but do what you can if you can. And so check out our description for that.
That's right, Lo.
A reminder, as always, we have Lauren here with us, friend of the show, that you can tune into this live at 9 p.m. every Friday, except next Friday. We're taking a break.
That's right.
It turns out that Batman is too much. We need to retreat and go visit Liam Neeson in the Alps and just do some soul searching.
The
but
nipples need rest.
We'll be back and we'll have some fun stuff. But if you want to engage live, you can do so. Otherwise, find us on social media after the fact. Let's just go ahead and get into it, because without further ado, we've got a full bat round table. We sent up the bat signal, and we got Kev, we got Charlie, and we got Justus. We asked for one Batman, and we got three.
It's true.
We brought the band back together.
We brought the band back together. You guys have all been with us through the whole journey of this Bat Chat series. You've been with us through Tim Burton, through Schumacher, through Nolan, and now to the big culmination, the Batman, it seemed only right that we make you fight to the death. But that was vetoed, so we just invited you all.
Here's
Who's
the
tarps
thing.
off, boys?
Batman of them all.
We cannot spend every single friend we have in the Thunderdome. We're gonna run out of friends.
That is the truth. So,
Two-man enter,
in the
one-man leave.
in
That's
the
less than
plan
we started
to
with.
extend our friendships, we have allowed you to live for now and join us tonight. So,
For now.
howdy, how are you guys doing?
I'm here. Happy.
Yeah.
Strategic
Yeah.
sip.
Bat-tastic. I'll say bat-tastic.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh man, the Robinisms have been severely missing in all of these films we've talked about for sure.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Holy
I mean,
rock and
I
roll.
expected them through the Schumacher stuff, but
Right, like
Well,
that's
Justus, disappointed me in that.
You know what? Who needs Robin? We got the Boop Wonder right there.
we've got
That's
the
right. That's
Boy
right.
Wonder with us as well, and I guess that makes me the Riddler.
I'm very
I'm okay with my fate. I'm relinquished to it at this point. I'm just happy to be here. I know that much. And obviously a big thank you to you guys. You've been with us for quite a journey, and certainly it's been a lot of fun. We're not very well known for our non-Star Wars stuff. For sure, but to spend so much time with a non-Star Wars series and have so much fun with it has been a nice little refresher, and hopefully everyone tuning in has enjoyed the conversation, our guests, and all that, because we certainly have. We have definitely enjoyed it, and we do have quite a crew with us.
It's true.
So, all right, now begins the time. We're gonna go ahead and say, because it should be obvious, but it's 2022. I don't assume.
We're talking about the dang movie.
We're talking about the movie. If you
Mhm.
haven't seen it,
Stop.
spoiler warning. First of all, go see it.
Yeah.
I've seen it 3
What's
times
wrong
at
with
this
you?
point,
Yeah.
Right.
so-
Like go
better?
this is an amazing film. Like just go see it, because we aren't going to be holding back at all. And so if you're looking for a reason to watch it, just watch it because it's the Batman.
This is the best movie ever made.
Bold.
Excellent.
Bold.
We're
Very
starting,
bold.
We're starting strong here.
Super strong.
Yeah.
That's true. So I kind of want to start out with just getting an idea from you all, what your headspace and what your expectations when this movie was announced, when the cast was announced. Now, obviously, it's been, I don't know if everyone listening realizes what journey this film has been on. It was originally announced back in 2014. So this has been a while in the making, and it started out at the peak of the Snyderverse DCEU stuff and has evolved clearly. But in its modern iteration, with Matt Reeves at the helm, with Robert Pattinson in the bat suit, the whole cast, when that was announced and the trailer was first dropped and everything, where were you all at in terms of expectations for this? Charlie, because I'm looking at you. Why don't you start us off?
I was not looking forward to it. I mean,
That's honest.
I was not a big fan of Robert Pattinson. Just wasn't, And the last, time that we had the new Batman, Ben Affleck, I was not a fan of him. So I was not looking forward to it. I was very hesitant to even go watch it when it came out. But the reviews look good on it, and the trailers were amazing, and it got me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I totally I get that, and I appreciate that honesty, because I think sometimes it's so easy on the other side when you've been proven wrong to just be like, no, yeah, I was a real fan from the get-go and everything. And so it's okay if you weren't initially excited. It's okay if you had some thoughts at first, because the cast was pretty bold for sure. And so I think reflecting both sides of that, it's very good. Kev, what about you?
So, at first, I mean, I won't lie. I was a little disappointed that the original Batman script was scrapped, and I mean, because we had that really awesome test footage of Deathstroke, and I make no secret about me being a pretty big fan of Ben Affleck's iteration of Batman. So, I mean, at first, I was like, oh, well, that sucks. But knowing that Matt Reeves was at the helm, it was like, okay, no, it's gonna be fine. And the first trailer was like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. Because it felt unique in the same way that other films like Logan felt unique. Like, this wasn't gonna be your prototypical comic book movie, and there's nothing wrong with that, but this was going to be something different. And when I saw it, there was not a single solitary second in which I was not completely consumed by what I was watching. You know, nothing at any point took me out of it. And it was definitely one of those transcendent experiences where you're watching something that it has comic book characters, but it does not behave like a comic book movie, and it's special, you know? So even though you might be a little disappointed that you didn't get what could have been, you got this.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a really interesting example of that. I mean, it was a completely different thing in an original concept, and now it is a very unique and maybe a standard setting kind of film now. Even if you don't have 10 out of 10 opinions of it or anything like that, although I've seen nothing but good reviews, you can't argue this is going to define movies now for a little while, especially comic book movies. Justus, what does Justus think of the Batman?
Huh? What?
Where was your heart at on this? Because you feel strongly. I love that about you. And so, like, this being as unique as it was, you were one of the ones I was most interested to kind of get an idea of where you sat with this.
Oh man, well, you know, I know we talked about it, and maybe even a couple of these episodes, but you know, my thing is always, can you portray Batman and can you portray Bruce Wayne, which is two totally different things for me. So that was my thing, and yeah, I'm with Charlie. I was super skeptical about Pattinson's ability to be able to do that. And the thing that got me though, it wasn't even the funny thing about it. It wasn't even the preview that had me interested in watching it, because I was kind of still skeptical about this version of Batman and how the preview went. But funnily is the word gonna be today. Funnily enough, Ben Affleck and his surprisingly good job, or at least surprisingly very decent job in doing Batman in that Batman version. I thought, oh, well, let me give this thing a try. Let's go in there because I was super with Bill. They said Ben Affleck was playing Batman. I was like, no, I'm good. I don't even know if I want to see it. Watched it, and I was pleasantly surprised. So I was like, okay, I went into this one like, okay, let's see, you know, let's see what happens. So
that's good. I love hearing, not because it aligns in any way with like me, like with the idea that this is going to be good, but just hearing that people change their minds is such a wonderful thing, because it can feel like in today's age that never happens.
True.
And so to hear that Batfleck kind of changed how you would approach future Batmen, I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, even a lot of other things too. Like, I've given other things chances because of, you know, how that surprised me. So
and that's the important thing, is like, give it a shot. You know, don't necessarily go in hoping it's your next favorite, but give it a shot to be at least on the list, maybe. I think everything made with good intention and lovingly deserves a shot. A chance.
A chance
A chance at a shot
We're going with that one
in the heart.
Yeah.
Harpoon. Yeah.
No, but you're
Yeah.
absolutely right, though, man. I mean, I don't know. The way I go into these things is I would rather live in a world where this exists than live in a world where it doesn't. Right.
Mm.
And the pleasant thing about the Batman, the film, is that not only does it exist, it fires on all cylinders, and it has
Literally.
so much potential.
Mm.
Like if they were laying the foundation, they laid that foundation.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they
You
laid it
know.
thick. I mean, if it is what it is, that's great. If it goes on and does more, even better.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really good space to kind of live in. We did one really good one, and I've appreciated Matt Reeves being very upfront and honest. Like that was always our intention, was make a good Batman movie,
And they succeed.
not to make a trilogy, not to make a series or change the fabric of the DCEU. We just
Right.
wanted to make a good movie, and I think that approach definitely formed what we got and the quality of what we got for sure.
Yeah. And in a
No.
weird way, having what 3 years
Mhm.
to work on this,
Yeah,
that couldn't have
well,
hurt.
yeah, because I mean, it was originally set for 21. He got it in 17, finalized in 18.
Mhm.
So yeah, altogether, I mean, he pumped out a movie in the time that it took Batfleck to fire himself, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I like, and that's not a comment necessarily creator to creator, but it's just that it sat on a shelf for so long, and you can tell that it went into the hands of somebody very, very passionate about the character
Mhm.
and the story they wanted to tell. Because I mean, it happened pretty boldly and pretty fast for sure.
Mhm.
And so tune in next week where we're going to have a sponsor from Grammarly, because apparently I can't talk.
It's
This
true.
movie's just so good.
It's so
That's what
goodly.
we'll say. Boot Boy Wonder, what did you think before any of this? When, like,
Yeah.
you know, you like the weird Batmans.
I do. I love the weird Batmans. I love weird movies in general. If you've been watching this show long enough, you know that. I feel like my initial reaction to hearing, you know, Patterson is being cast was, oh, this movie's gonna piss some people off, and I love that for him, because I went from being, you know, one of those, I'm not like other girls, you know, I hate Twilight, Robert Pattinson's the worst actor ever, to watching The Lighthouse, and that completely changing my opinion on Robert Pattinson in general, and going back and watching his other movies and just being absolutely blown away by his talent. And so that was incredibly exciting, knowing that he can, you know, do the drama. He can be the little emo boy drawing on the floor. Like, that was amazing. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and the first trailer won me over completely. Did the Boop special of going in with absolutely no expectations, excited to be here. And it worked.
It's a good way to
best.
go.
It's the best.
Worst vampire ever. Took him 12 years to finally turn into a bat.
Boo! Dad
Ooh.
jokes galore.
Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah,
I'm the
wah.
regular on this show.
It's funny listening back to him. I watched a few interviews leading up to this episode, because I kind of wanted to spend some time like with the cast and everything. I had appreciated a lot of the folks involved in this. I appreciated their work, but I kind of wanted to see them a little bit, and hearing him go back and talk. And it's so funny because it's like, you know, the super emo, ridiculous acting that he did, especially in the first film,
Yeah.
was all him. Like, he specifically chose, like, he's like, look, I read the book. There's no way not to do this emo if you want to do it right. And it's just like, I it's bad, but I have an appreciation for it, because he's just
Yeah.
like, he gets the material at least.
I feel like at some point we're going to talk about Twilight just because of how ridiculous it is, and just oof.
It's a special little thing. I will say, when this was first announced, I was glad, if only to finally get a proper shot at Batfleck. The one thing that, although we got a great movie out of the process that it went through, I'll always be a little sad that, Ben didn't get a real shot at it. But at the same time, like hearing him talk about his journey of why he stepped away and everything, and just the toll that it took on him, I definitely don't blame him for being like, yeah, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
It had been quite a working relationship, quite a strain. And it's just an excellent reminder actors are people too. They have lives and they deliver these characters, and we love those characters to look and act a certain way, but there's people under those characters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so, um, but you mentioned the Lighthouse because of where Pattinson had come in his career.
I like that that's just his name.
I was instantly sold. Like him and Reeves sold me. It was everything else that actually had me pretty skeptical. The Catwoman in the first film, Penguin, especially once they were like, it's going to be Colin Farrell in 30 pounds of makeup. And then also you're making the first major villain, the Riddler. And I'm like, it's a lot of choices, but Reeves and Pattinson are attached. I have to believe it's going to be mostly good.
Oh yeah.
I definitely didn't expect it to be as good as it was. Everything came about to a 10 for me. I thought it was going to be a mostly good film, but it turned out to be a great film. And one of the things I thought that was interesting about it was that we didn't get an origin story, really, not in the typical sense of seeing it happen and everything.
Yeah.
They pulled a No Way Home there a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't need it. Like we've seen it so many freaking times.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
We've redone Batman at least every 4 years or so. Like,
Yeah.
he's colloquial at this point.
I mean, the character's been around for nearly 80 years. We know.
Right.
Yes.
We know the sordid details. Give us a good story.
And so, and a part of that story involving Batman that's in his first couple of years of Batmaning, and you couple that with an up-and-coming villain who shows up to unravel the corruption that has built Gotham, essentially, you get a very epic sort of film noir type movie that just happens to star a guy that dresses like a bat, I think.
Yep.
What did you think of the sort of idealistic villain and the fact of the Wayne legacy? So instead of getting, an origin story in the classic theater scene, we get an origin story of, the Wayne legacy being kind of dragged through the mud a little bit. That was very different.
Yeah.
Justus, what did you think?
Oh man, don't start with me, man.
You weren't ready. That's why I did it.
Not ready.
Stay on your toes.
I'm gonna be last. No, but man, that was actually pretty cool. Because my big thing was I want to see less of the same people and less of the same thing. Kind of like you were talking about. We've seen the origin story a million times. That was my thing with Spider-Man. Like, why are you making 3 Spider-Mans with the same beginning, whatever. But starting at the same place, sorry. But that was my thing for Batman. I was like, there's so many villains. There's so many different parts of the story. Like, you got Batman, you got his story with Dick Grayson, you got his story with Tim Drake, you got a story with Jason Todd, you got a story with, Wayne.
Damian Wayne.
You got a story with his son.
Damian Wayne.
Damian Wayne. There we go. But and that don't even talk about all of the villains that you have him facing. But I like that, man. I like that they didn't make the Riddler super soft. They kind of went the hush route, and I was like, I'm cool with that, man. I don't want because Batman is Batman. And then when it comes down to it, it's kind of like the whole Aquaman thing where everybody's like, I don't really like Aquaman. He's big, he can only do stuff in the water. He can't do anything. But in the comics, I've had it. Aquaman was my guy, because there was so many things that he could do that a lot of people, were sleeping on. Same thing with, the Riddler. And yes, he got a lot of riddles or whatever, but he's not stupid. He was, smart and creative at the way that he did stuff. It was a whole mind thing. And he played mind games with a person that was considered the world's greatest detective.
Right.
You know, so it was like you got that whole battle of the wits, you know, type of thing going on, which again, that was another thing that I wanted to see in the Batman movie was them play on Bruce Wayne's intelligence and Batman's intelligence, and not just, you know, hey, he fights, or his parent died, he's battling this whole thing. Let's talk
Right.
about that detective side. So it really brings that out of it.
Yeah, because it doesn't just, it's not a let's throw weird and obscure technology at it, right? It's actual wit, it's actual gumshoe detective work.
Exactly.
It's good stuff that feels like a normal guy could attain if he's motivated enough.
Right.
And I think this movie does well to set up, like, this is a very single-minded and motivated, and what motivates him changes throughout the film, but he is a motivated Batman.
Yep.
He's a very motivated Bruce Wayne as well. Kev, what about you?
So, what I really enjoyed about the Riddler as a villain is they do this thing where the premise of their villainy is like, yeah, I got it. I see what you're doing, but they're always just slightly off kilter. You know, it's just slightly that. And Batman is kind of the perfect counter to that, in the sense that, you know, he's also lost in a way. When you see him at the beginning of the movie, he's lost himself in the monster. He's lost himself in the rage. I mean, he's identified himself as an entity of vengeance, and that's his single-minded purpose. And you can see from the beginning of the film how that's kind of poisoned him in a weird way. It's poisoned his interactions with Alfred. It's poisoned his interactions with the world writ large, because he doesn't really know who Bruce Wayne is outside of the cowl. You know, that's why whenever Bruce Wayne is out in the city on his motorbike, the cowl's in his backpack. He is ready to go at all times.
Right.
And I like what you said, that, I mean, he evolves through the film, and it's I don't know, it's just, I don't think we've ever gotten an evolution of Batman in a film that is this well laid out and has such a satisfying arc. You know, it feels to me like the most complete arc of growth that we've seen from a Batman. You know, so everything in this movie is so delicately balanced, and it's like, I remember after watching it, I was driving away and I was like, there were so many ways this could have gone sideways. There were so many ways. Like, they were balancing everything on a knife's edge, and I can't get over the fact that they just stuck the landing. Like,
it's impressive. It
Yes.
really is. And I mean, Matt Reeves is going to get a lot of credit, but there's a lot of hands at work to bring this to life for sure. And so,
absolutely.
and I think that's where it lands, right? Is it's a good culmination of people working together to make it work.
And a brilliant cast. I mean, nobody in this film isn't carrying their weight. You know what I mean? Like, even Andy Serkis, who has a limited role, right? He's not in the film very much, but every scene he's in, he is maximizing.
Yes.
Every scene.
It almost felt like you know, the scene was dictated by the most important character in it. Right. And so it was constantly a trade out. It wasn't always, or if Batman's on screen, it's his scene.
Yep.
No. Sometimes it was the Riddler's. Sometimes it was Alfred's. Sometimes it was the Penguins, I guess.
Yeah.
There was one scene, yes, where it was his. It belonged all to him.
Yep.
But I appreciate that, because so often what not necessarily hurts a story, but definitely kind of makes certain areas flatter than others is when you think that your main character is always the main character in every scene.
No.
Right.
You know, it's just that they're the main character in the arc,
Right.
not necessarily all moments of the arc. And I will say, I think it does just slightly beat out for me, like you said, that this is such a perfect kind of journey for Batman. Again, I think because Matt Reeves expected to do it in one film.
Right.
And that's not that he's perfect by the end of it, but he definitely wanted a clear A to B scenario. Whereas I think Nolan's, although a lot of praise for Batman Begins being an excellent independent Batman film or the beginning of something.
Yeah.
Everybody knew it was a beginning of something.
Right.
And I definitely think that dictated, all right, we're going to break him down the way. We need him to be perfectly Batman by the end of this movie.
Right.
And so it is a little accelerated there, unlike here where we've got a Bruce that's very damaged goods.
Oh yeah.
For the portrayal of grief that is, for the portrayal of how loss can affect someone in the longevity, I appreciate that so much, because you think that I've made peace with it because I allow that situation to motivate me to do good things. And yet, like you said, that led him to get lost in the sauce.
Mhm.
He was lost in the bat sauce. And so,
He was
but
lost in that.
but we acknowledge that, like the film calls that out, like, Alfred especially is there to kind of slap him out of it, of just like, what are you doing to yourself?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I love that so much. Charlie, what about you on the Riddler and his sort of presence in the journey and everything?
Well, so I'm about to say something very controversial.
Oh boy.
Oh, bring it on.
Buckle up.
We'll take the clicks.
As Heath Ledger's Joker was amazing.
Yes.
But I kind of feel that this villain, the Riddler, is a little bit crazier than Heath Ledger's Joker.
I'll give you that.
I'll bite.
Paul Dano can do crazy. He has
Obviously.
will again do crazy very well.
He did really good. I'll say he was one of the ones I was a little skeptical of, because he's always been such a comedic relief that I thought this was going to be
a Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be too funny, right? And I say that loving Jim Carrey, I love his outing as Riddler, but that's Jim Carrey's Riddler. That's not necessarily the character.
Right.
And that's blurred for a lot of people. So I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
I was a little worried there for a second, but yeah, I mean, trusting the casting, he did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like Justus said, he brought up Hush. The Riddler in Hush is terrifying, terrifying. And what really terrifies me about this Riddler, and spoilers, but the end of the film, when you find he's got a following on social media, even though it's only 500 followers, but this guy used a TikTok-esque app to spread his message. And not only that, but like garner actual henchmen. They used social media to explain henchmen, and they all dressed like him. And it's one of those characters that's so you can understand his motivations. You're like, all right, I got you, but you're a little off kilter there. But on top of that, like the mirror he thinks he is to Batman, or not the mirror, how similar he thinks he is to Batman is really scary, because Batman is obviously known around Gotham, especially the underworld, as, hey, vengeance, so that reputation precedes him, and the Riddler fancies himself also an instrument of vengeance. So it's literally like what Bruce brings up. He's like, I'm not making a difference. Well, yeah, you are, just in the wrong direction, buddy.
Yeah, if you're not careful. I think, Justus, you and I were talking at one point about how, not that you and I were having an exclusive conversation. I think everybody realizes, like, every Batman villain, what makes them so wonderful and special is they are a mirror held up to Batman, right? In one form or fashion, maybe except for the ventriloquist, like you're looking at it like, oh, if Batman had made one different choice, he might have been this.
Might have picked up a puppet.
He might have done that and everything. And so, but that said, I don't think in film they've accomplished that, except maybe with like Bane and Talia al Ghul in Dark Knight Rises. I thought that was a really good example of, hey, very similar journeys but different choices. But here, very explicitly, like, no, he had the same sort of influence as the Batman when he put on the mask and
Yeah.
Like I love so many of those parallels. That was such an interesting way to take it because that was not what I would think the Riddler would be an instrument of.
Yeah, and it's pointing out the fact that the only difference between the Riddler and Bruce Wayne is money. Like,
Yeah.
they were both
Yeah.
orphans,
And
tragically, but that's the point.
and we haven't gotten a Riddler like this.
No.
Joker's always been crazy. We've just seen different levels, but we've never seen a Joker. I mean, a Riddler like this. We've always seen, like the '66 version Riddler, who's funny and giddy, just like Jim Carrey. That's
the best.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, that's one of the elements where he gets to rival, and not to stack cups. It's very difficult to do, but he does get to rival villains we have seen in the past, that have seemed like the epitome of chaos in a character. I appreciate what they did with the Joker in the Nolan films to say, all right, the way we're going to make him the crazy guy is to make him utterly chaotic. And I like here where they do the same thing of, this is a kid burning legs off of an ant. This is a kid that has, power by information, power by awareness of the dark side of Gotham. And more dark than, obviously is public, because everybody talks about the crime outside, but nobody talks about the politics.
Yeah.
And that's a part of this is, it's about unmasking things, right? We think the real crime is the things that happen on the streets, but really it's the things that happen in the third story office buildings.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
And so he fancies himself as that I have the power because I have the knowledge of the real things going on. And I'm gonna watch all of that unfold in chaos while also exacting my revenge. Because he, like you mentioned, he's one of the orphans directly affected by these schemes.
Yeah.
Right.
That was my favorite scene in the movie, was that interrogation scene, I guess you could call it, but like his full backstory of, hey, I'm screwed up. This is how I'm screwed up, and this is how your legacy is directly influenced that. Also, just
not realizing he's actually
exactly.
I don't know. How did you guys before we move on? How did you read that? Does he know Batman is Bruce Wayne, or do you think he's completely off?
It's to me, it's kind of allegorical of his entire arc, right? Like he is so close to the truth. He is right there, and it's just like his plan. He succeeds. About 98% of his plan succeeds. Like the Batman only foils a little bit of it. He saves some people, but he can't stop it. Just like the Riddler, he's this close. He's so close to the truth, but he still can't see it. So I didn't see it as him knowing the identity.
That was good tension, though.
Incredible. Because I was like in the theater, I was like, oh, does he know?
Right? Yeah.
You're for real like this, like
exactly.
I will say I search the GIF thing on Twitter constantly for specifically the GIF where he freaks out in the interrogation scene.
Oh,
because
man.
his whole thing of this is not how this was supposed to go reminds me of literally every Star Wars fan after The Last
Jedi. On a daily basis.
If someone techier and more legally compromising than me wants to acquire that gift for me,
Michael,
talk to me afterwards. I love it, and yeah, I appreciate too that the origin story that we get for Bruce, and I do like what Lauren mentioned earlier. Again, shout out to our live watch crew. That this was kind of an origin story more for the villains than it was for Batman. But I do also like that the quote unquote origins that we get for Batman are all about his legacy, not necessarily that night, but it's the grander scheme, because it's still that idea of like you think that this one thing defines you, but really there's all this other stuff, there's all this other baggage. And I like that because we don't really ever deal with, like, we idealize the Waynes and clearly so does the character of Bruce Wayne, and that's supposed to be constant motivation. And this is one of the first. I'm sure there's comics that kind of venture into this, but this is one of the first films that has made the choice of, no, we're going to make Bruce choose to be Batman for Bruce's sake,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like, he's not going to just be motivated by his perfect parents and his perfect childhood that was robbed from him. He's going to be motivated by his choices to do the right thing, regardless of his parents and his legacy.
Right.
I love that.
Right. And I think I'm
Um,
gonna throw this in there real quick. I don't want to take up
no,
too much
please
of everything,
hit
but
me.
but there is
Hit me.
I think there's a lot of Batman kind of, or Bruce Wayne at least, learning, especially in this movie, but at some point understanding the actual difference between him and the villains. And we kind of touched on a little bit earlier about, it could have been that one thing that, drove him to the other side or something. But even at some point, I feel like he's seeing that himself. And that whole code he has, like, I won't do this, or I won't cross these specific lines, because that's what makes me different, than everybody else or whatever, because he's on that line. He's on that fence, as a vigilante, that's kind of how you got to do it. But I mean, I feel like he's seeing that, and that's the thing that's driving his code. Like, I can't kill because I'm going to be like this, or I'm going to be like that, or that's going to open that door. So that's kind of interesting.
Well, I like that there's a subtle, not too obvious shift, right? Like, in the beginning, he just wails on people.
Mhm.
And then at another point, he's stopping Selena from killing someone. That's all you need. That shows clearly he has made a choice, realizing all that's going on, right? Like, no, I need to consciously make sure I'm not doing that. I'm not going into that world and that territory.
But do you think that I'm gonna ask a question this for everybody? Do you think
that's my job, Justus? No,
Go for it.
take
hit
over.
me.
Welcome to the show.
Now the Justice show.
No, but do you think that had anything to do? Like, y'all made a comment about the progression of him, or the things that he was learning throughout the movie. Y'all think that had anything to do with what he learned from, about his parent, or about at least his father, and what he learned kind of about, Riddler, as far as his origin story? You think those things kind of added to his maturity, I guess, or his changing as it went forward?
Well, sure, because he realized he had to represent something more than vengeance. He had to represent hope. He had to be an example and not an instrument. Because look at the contrast, right? The opening scene of the movie is him literally walking out of the shadows and pummeling people. At the end of the movie, he's in the light, and he's, instead of pummeling somebody, he's looking at a child and trying to tell him, like, it's going to be okay, And again, I know we're praising Robert Pattinson, but he deserves the praise, because, like any other actor that plays Batman, you are limited with what you can do because of that cowl and what he does with just his eyes. Because that last scene of the movie, when he's looking at that kid being pulled away, and he's just, you could see his eyes, like, it's going to be fine.
Yeah,
broke me. I was like, whoa, I'm feeling.
And I saw someone on Twitter saying, like, if everybody wants Batman to have the white eyes like he does in the animated series and in the comics, no, that would have taken away so much of the character. Like, he lives in the eyeballs, and that is Bruce Wayne.
I do think that there were choices subtly to create the kind of character that Batman is known for by the end of this movie. I hadn't thought about it in the context of what he learns about his dad, though. Like I said, I had thought about it in the context of him comparing himself to the Riddler, but I hadn't thought about it, after the revelation that, hey, my dad inadvertently got someone killed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because the person that he thought and he held as perfect in his eyes, he found out that, okay, he did some stuff too.
Yeah.
So now, in looking at all these other villains, is he a little bit more empathetic?
Yeah.
No,
I would hope so.
That's a really good. I mean, obviously, we're all just sharing opinions. That who knows other than Matt Reeves, and he can say whatever he wants at this point to claim, brilliance. But I think that's a really good parallel if you want to read it that way for sure.
I agree.
I
I
like
think
that.
I think the empathy, what you said, Justice, empathy is really important because I mean, when we see Bruce at the beginning of the movie, he's just it's the mission. It's all
Yep.
he's got. And he shows very little empathy. Like even when Alfred's trying to connect with him, he just shoves him away.
Right.
You know. So I think you make a good point, and I think that's a really bold thing to give a character like Batman such a front and center kind of change in empathy. I think that's a good read of it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I really enjoy about this outing as Batman as well, is that it deals with, and I think you kind of uh, talked around it, Justice, of like by the end of this movie, I don't think he's perfectly Batman.
No.
Mm-mm.
I think it highlights what's so important, that if you have strong convictions about the right way to do things, you've constantly got to frisk those convictions, right? You're constantly on the edge of either going too far or giving up. Either way, you've got to keep reminding yourself why you do what you do and what the right way to do what you do is. That's Batman to me. It's not the perfect Boy Scout. It's the one that constantly wrestles with, is this right? Is this worth it? Is it doing anything? And constantly checking himself.
Yeah.
Am I what I set out to be? Am I doing what I set out to do? If not, do I need to change, or do I need to hang up the cowl?
Yeah.
That's always going to be more interesting and more connective to me, for sure.
Yeah.
So along the way, we also got some of the other famous rogues. This movie was not shy about going in on the cast, right? We didn't just
Mm-mm.
get the Riddler. We didn't just get some random thugs. We also got some big names as well with the Penguin and Catwoman.
Yes, we did.
And so, Charlie, what'd you think of Bird and Cat over here and their take on this film?
I'm I'll be honest. I really enjoyed the Penguin.
Yeah.
Yep.
I being a mob boss, and that's what he is.
Yeah.
He's not some circus clown, that we got with Keaton and Burton. That's still a good Penguin too. Don't get me wrong. But this guy, this portrayal is a in my opinion 100% comic, authentic. Same with Catwoman. I was really pleased with her performance. I really have nothing bad to say about the movie, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Same,
That's fine.
really.
Like,
And
that's the nerd.
not that it's bad if you have anything out there for anybody
yeah.
listening or checking out, or even any of you.
This movie was great, man.
You're not a lesser fan for having a okay,
Put your hand down, Justin.
that was not for me. Like that happens. This movie was almost 3 hours long. You're probably going to get 5 minutes that don't work for you. Like it happens.
But can you
Well,
really
like
look at Zoe Kravitz,
Right.
Lisa
No.
Bonet Jr., and then say, "Oh,
No.
no, you can't."
Well, that's like I told you
So-
the other day, John. I said when we watched the movie, it made me feel like I was being introduced to Batman for the first time.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it. That's a
Wow.
very good way of putting it.
I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and what a first Batman for some people to have, right?
I know.
Sure. Like, I don't know. This was just my read on it. But when I left the theater, even during the movie, I kept thinking back to Batman the Animated Series
Mhm.
and Mask of the Phantasm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It just reminded me, because Gotham had an aesthetic that felt kind of similar in the same vein as the animated series. It was, I don't know. It was bringing up all of those old, like, nostalgic feelings for that time period. It just reminded me of that. And it did feel like some of the first times you ever introduced this character, because it has such a bold and unique look.
And that's some of the benefit of operating as if this is it. Like, if we have one shot at Batman for people, this is it. Like, I think it was the smartest choice of them to go in just untethered to expectations of
Sure.
like we're on. We've got to do this movie. Let's do it great, and what happens happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. I think the Penguin was fine.
Wow.
He served a purpose in this movie. Like, he wasn't very forward. He wasn't very stellar because he didn't need to be. It wasn't his role in this story.
He wasn't the big bad yet.
Not yet. Exactly. And supposedly there's a show, maybe there's a sequel, whatever. We're going to get there with him, and I'll at least say I'm more excited about getting there with him than I was initially. I will point out that Matt Reeves has gone on record saying he hired Colin Farrell just because he likes Colin Farrell.
That's fair.
Best way to get a gig.
Exactly.
Right.
That's how I get invited on podcasts.
Hey, I know
it works. It works.
And that's not at all a devalue to his involvement, because I highly encourage anybody to check it out, right? If you're like me and the Penguin's just kind of meh for you, hear Matt Reeves talk about it. He's a big nerd. Hearing him talk about Colin and talk about their vision for the character really changed my mind to where I can look at that much more as okay, I want to be along for the ride.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes that's what it takes, is making a reason for yourself to like something.
Yeah.
But just saying, and Colin Farrell as the Penguin, that didn't get me like it did some people.
His face during the car chase. That's immediately what won me over.
The best part about the Penguin is the makeup effects that they did, that he was able to
Insanely
act
good.
so well under all that makeup.
Crazy good.
Yeah, 4 hours, right?
Yeah,
it's
like,
a testament to how far we've come with prosthetics.
intense.
You can act around them now.
Yeah.
And actually, they didn't even originally want prosthetics. Like, it was a part of the process after getting Colin on, but like Matt Reeves was very much just like, no, Colin is the Penguin. I kind of would have been intrigued by that one. I still think some effects would have been there, but I definitely think we got more than originally was planned or intended.
Yeah.
But Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, how they could get it so right, like it's almost a Heath Ledger situation of like, you did really good getting a really good Batman, right? I don't expect you to get anyone good enough to rival them, but good luck. But
a few times.
I mean, they really lucked out. That really good stuff with Zoe, and
There's just so much chemistry.
It's very
Yes.
well done.
I mean, and that's between the whole cast. Like, all of the cast worked well together. I loved the chemistry between Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz. I loved the chemistry between Pattinson and Jeffrey Wright. Like, the Batman Gordon dynamic was.
So well.
But what about the Gordon voice?
Hey, again, Jeffrey Wright's another one of those guys. I will listen to him read the phone book. Like,
oh yeah. Like, but
Don't get me started on the voices of this movie.
I watched the second season of Westworld for Jeffrey Wright.
What's funny is, like, he played Batman in an animated little short series that you can actually check out on HBO Max right now, right? He did less of a voice for Batman than he did for Jim Gordon. Here's the thing. I think it's cute. I can't be mad at it because it's so dang cute when they walk up on Penguin together and he's just like, what do you know about the, and it's just like, whoa. That's my thing, Gordon. It's adorable. It's good stuff.
It's good cop, bad cop.
I love that jail scene. Like, so much good stuff. They really did well. Like, at some point we're gonna not have anyone else that's that good at Gordon. So I'm glad we finally got Jeffrey Wright while we could. Because I think he was great.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Give him that so he'll shut up about Mace Windu, please.
I'm poking the bear on that one there, guys.
You know what? Like, I was just talking to somebody about Samuel L. Jackson being like the black guy, you know, in most movies. He's the black guy, you know. And then, you know, you got a black Jim Gordon or whatever. And I was like, and then you said that, and I'm like, okay. That'd have been interesting.
It would be.
That'd have been interesting.
Give it 10 years. I think he'll make it happen.
Probably. Once
Yeah.
he gets a little more gray.
That interrogation would have been a little different. Like,
There would have been a lot more F-bombs.
Penguin,
Oh,
tell
yeah.
me what you know.
But there's nobody more masterful at it than Samuel L. Okay,
It's
like,
Oh no.
Oh
Like-
yeah, like there's certain people like you know, not that we host a friend group of angels and saints that never curse, but if any of them did, I have someone that can say the B word like nobody's business.
Yes.
He makes you and your mama feel insulted. And there's just certain people that are gifted at that language. And Sam is one of them. I'll say too, you know, speaking of chemistry with like Zoe and Pattinson specifically, like the scene where they part ways really did it for me. Like
yes.
if I wasn't on and I was on by that point, it's that really soul like wow, these are very interconnected, you know, very felt soulmates in a way.
Mhm.
However that you know, whatever direction that goes, but either way, these are two people very linked together emotionally.
Yeah.
And man, and then just the long bike ride and like
Mhm.
oh
Oh man.
that was good. It was heartbreaking, but it was good. And then also, I mean, we talked about Gordon, but we can't leave off Alfred. We've kind of
Oh.
alluded to him, but
Excellent.
a very good outing, a decent Alfred, I'll say. An
Yeah.
Alfred with a history that I want to know for sure.
Right.
Exactly.
I want to know how he got those scars.
Yeah.
Right.
I wanna
That's
know-
this is SAS Alfred.
Oh,
This is
oh yeah.
definitely
This
SAS
is
Alfred.
Pennyworth. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Through and through. And I think that Andy Serkis is a good fit for that, especially for this kind. He alludes to so much history with Bruce and
Oh, yeah.
and even for himself that I believe with Andy Serkis. Like if you told me Michael Caine had like been in the army or something or killed a man, I wouldn't believe you.
No.
I really wouldn't.
No.
Maybe he killed someone with wit, but
Exactly.
Right. But this is the first time I've really definitely felt like, oh, this Alfred could put on the bat suit like that one time. Like,
yeah.
you know, that really worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, like the scene in the hospital between Alfred and Bruce
Mm.
murdered me because like Alfred he clearly knows he is not the parent that Bruce needed, but he's the parent that Bruce got. And he knows that even though he did his best, he still came up short. And it made me think of conversations I've had with my own parents. Being young, they really didn't know what to do with me. I was a handful, we'll say. And the conversations we have as I got older was like, you know, we did the best we could. And that's very much Alfred with this very highly intelligent, highly troubled, highly motivated kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that scene, it killed me. It killed me. That was probably the heaviest moment of the movie for me.
Well, and it alludes to even Alfred's not perfect.
Exactly.
You know, and I think that's a beautiful thing about this universe with Batman is no one is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the best and most grounded way you can take it. You know, screw the realistic technology and all this other stuff. Like, give me characters that are genuinely human,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm there. You know,
Yep.
however he flies off the roof, I don't care. But
Exactly.
you know, I care about genuine relationships between characters for sure.
You reminded me of a point that I was very excited about for this movie is that they do not shy away from gadgets. It's
Oh,
not just because it's a realistic Batman movie. There's still heck of gadgets. Like
I love it.
Oh
I
yeah,
love it.
that adrenaline.
but
Come
Yes.
on.
it feels like so unlike and it's such an interesting parallel, right? So unlike the Nolan verse where this is Bruce Wayne throwing his money at technology to
Yeah.
build the Batman, like we literally see it. This is just
Yeah.
a kid working in his garage. Like
Exactly. Like that's why this is the best, in my opinion, iteration of the Batsuit and
oh
the
man,
Batmobile.
I will
he
agree.
looks
I'm
so
gonna
good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna echo that because the issue I've always had with Batsuits is the utility belt, right?
Yes.
Because the stuff that these Batman movies they'll pull off that belt. You're like, no way that's hanging there, dude. No
Right.
way. So what I love what they did with this bat suit is the entire
It's
suit
everywhere.
the
Yeah.
entire suit's the utility belt.
Yeah.
You know, his batarangs, his grappling gun is in the gauntlet. He's got a batarang on his chest. He's got stuff everywhere. Like, brilliantly done.
Absolutely.
And just a 10 out of 10 look too.
Oh,
like you
yes.
get a good allusion to multiple Batmen
He can turn his head.
of past. Yeah, like you get the armor of like the Snyderverse, you get the very low ears of like Adam West, right? You get all the blacking gadget of Burton and Schumacher and everything. Like you get a little bit of everything in
Yes.
there. But I will say the one thing I really, really liked, that was just a little thing, but it works so well in like the silhouette is the collar.
Yeah.
I really
Does
like the
have-
collar of his cape.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like he's not a very beefy guy, especially in suit. But the way the
Stop shaking
suit
your head.
sort of helps allude to beefiness
Yeah.
is kind of neat for me.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
screwing up the beef boys
Well,
right now, Justin.
Also,
Batman
Also-
can't be as swole as you, Justice. Come on.
well, think about this. That collar is for protection. That way he can turn his head.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because all the other Batman, they had to
Right.
turn their
Oh, yeah.
body.
So
Yeah.
to the point that it became a joke in the Dark Knight, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Yep.
it's so funny to me.
Yeah.
It lends to, like you said, such an incredible silhouette. Like they
Mhm.
use that so well in quiet scenes. Like
Oh yeah.
I love the way that he looks at people, where it's just like a quarter turn, one eye at them.
I was
That is insanely good.
I was gonna save that, but like, and you guys kind of brought up the whole, he acts through the eyes thing.
Yes.
Mhm.
Easily in my top 10 moments are anytime he stops and looks at someone.
Mhm.
Right? There's a scene where he first, lays eyes on the kid, the son of the
Yes.
mayor. When he first walks into even just the crime scene room, when he's looking around at the other cops in the situation. Like there's so many times where like the movie slows down, the sound kind of fades, and it's just him. And I feel like that is the most Bruce Wayne we see in Batman, if that makes like
Mhm.
I feel like that's him stepping out of the persona a little bit and just being him, like being observant and kind of taking in everything. That's not a fully formed thought. That's just like I really enjoyed those slow moments with him and
But
his eyes.
it makes sense, right? Like, because anytime Bruce Wayne has an interaction with somebody, he's super awkward. He does not know how to handle people, and it makes sense that as Batman, he also does not know how to handle people. So he just
Yeah.
side eyes people and makes them very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's what it is for me is like it's the first it's when it feels like you've got his full attention, right? Like there's those specific scenes where it's like all of his attention is at that moment.
Right.
Even Bruce at the funeral, with the Riddler on the upper level and with the kid, there's that same look. It's just that he's not in the suit.
Yeah.
But that's the moment he's fully present because at any other given point, he's just not there.
Exactly.
Not to
Yeah.
mention,
I would love for them to do it. I'm sorry.
you're good.
You should be. I'm just kidding.
The scene on the
Right.
steps before the funeral, where he's hyper focused on Carmine Falcone
Mhm.
walking up the steps, doesn't even notice that he's.
Oh yeah,
about to
just
get-
walks by the posse like you can
Yeah.
just do that.
Well, like I have a theory with all of my superhero theories. This one in particular is hella neurodivergent.
Oh,
You cannot tell me
I do think
otherwise.
they play it that way.
Absolutely, I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know who it is specifically. That's not my decision to make, but you cannot tell me that Batman is not neurodivergent. In this movie.
You definitely. I mean, like
I'll bite. I'll bite.
Hey, Christian
I
Bale's
know you do.
Bruce said it best, right? You have to be a special kind of guy to dress up as a bat. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
is there not a more American Psycho scene in Batman than that dinner table scene with
Yeah.
him and like Harvey Dent?
Oh
and all
yeah.
that?
He
Oh
plays
yeah.
the
The lines between Patrick Bateman and Bruce Wayne are really blurred.
Oh yes. Oh yes. But Justice, you were gonna say, do you remember?
I did until you literally just said.
You want to talk about neurodivergent? Look at this crew.
No,
And
that's
we
what it
love
was.
you for it.
It was the eyes. You were talking about the eyes. And I would love to. I'm just be throwing in stuff. I'm not like this expert on everything Batman. Probably kind of am, but there was
More than me, buddy.
no, but there is. I just love talking about it. But I would love to have somebody do a compilation of just the eye scenes because it was a lot. I'm thinking about it in my head throughout that entire movie. There was a lot of just him looking at people. Like when the guy stopped him when he was walking into was it the crime scene? Was it the police station?
Yeah, it was
It was
and he
It was
walked
crime
past
scene at the beginning. Yeah.
everybody.
cops only. Cops only.
After
Like
he's
the
walked by
look
like
that he gave
50
that
of
guy,
them.
he was like,
This man walked up all these stairs, and you're really going to try and tell him no
he
now?
has all of these officers. Nobody
know.
stopped this dude except for you.
Commissioner Gordon, I don't know if you know, but there's a bat following you. Bruh.
I kind of like that he walks everywhere.
right.
I kind of dig that. Like,
Yeah.
he like the Nolan trilogy made a lot about Batman the Ninja.
Yeah.
Like, this guy just walks into the Iceberg Lounge and starts beating people. Like,
Do you know
man.
who I am?
exactly. I love this. Walk up to the door.
I love those two scenes. Right. I love the first one with Batman, obviously, because it's just hilarious.
Yes.
The second best, like Batman in a club scene, because the Dark Knight does it very well, where you just kind of see him in the neon lights in the background, slowly working his way up to the gangster. But I love the whole. I'm just gonna charge in. I'm gonna get as deep as I can, as fast as I can. But then to play it back, to reprise that right with Bruce and just the very defeated, you know who I am. And it's funny how I think he clearly realizes, right? Bruce Wayne can open doors Batman can't sometimes.
I was just thinking that.
Yep.
I was just thinking that. Him understanding that his own duality.
Yeah.
Because he knew after the funeral that, Falcone will talk to him. We'll talk to Bruce.
Right. And that's the thing. Like it helped put together pieces he already had of there was something there. I just thought too highly of my father. Like, I mean, he literally makes a joke of it. It means he took the Hippocratic Oath. That's why he saved your life.
Yeah.
It's not until later, the light goes off. Oh, wait. Nobody does something for nothing in Gotham.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not
I
even.
love that scene between Bruce and Falcone. It's
Oh, yeah.
like, especially because the way John Turturro played that is because he had seen mobsters growing up. Like, he had seen how they interact with people and how they kind of they find a way to just get you under their wing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Well,
it was so masterfully done.
It's constantly molding to your situation, right? Because you're always, even if you're on top like he is, you're always teetering.
Yeah.
And you're just working to keep that balance. And yeah, big shout out to John Turturro for that. I honestly forgot he was in it till he showed up, and I mean, just genuinely, I guess I was just so caught up with everybody else in the cast.
Yeah.
But he quickly took it and took it hard with a lot of that latter half and the climax and everything.
Yeah, I think his part even felt bigger than some of the the other actual people like Penguin and Catwoman. Like that, those last things were like big.
It's a choice with just your generic gangster character, typically, right? Like they definitely gave Falcone a bigger presence in the grand scheme of this Gotham and everything, for sure.
Right.
Well, to kind of pull ourselves into our own climax and wrap up here soon, I wanted to go around and see. We've talked about a lot of things. See, it's not inappropriate to you giggle like that, Kev.
Right.
And then you make it inappropriate for everybody else. And we'll start getting into it.
That's what I do best.
Okay.
That's right.
The best part is there's somebody listening that's just like, I don't get it.
And then there's somebody who's listening is like, you was thinking it, but you said it.
It's true. I wanted to. We've talked about a lot, and maybe we've already talked about some of it for each of you. But I wanted to take a chance to see, out of a 10 out of 10 kind of film, what maybe top 3 moments stood out to each of you. And I expect some overlap for sure, and some, like I said, that we've already discussed. But starting with the Boot Boy Wonder, and we'll work around the table. But yeah,
Good,
you
'cause I've
got
already got
top
mine.
3.
I do have a top 3, and I'm gonna go in reverse.
Okay.
Because that's a fun way to do it. Number 3, definitely the pool table scene with Bruce kind of coming to terms with what his father did between him and Falcone.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent dialogue, excellent acting, just beautiful, wonderful, loved it. Did a lot of work for his motivation through the rest of the movie.
Absolutely.
Number 2 is the car chase. I'm not an action movie person. I don't like a lot of action scenes or car chases in movies, but I have never seen a car chase like that in my life, and felt like, okay, that's what I've been missing my entire life. Okay, this is what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be, just a car here and a car there running down an empty street. It's supposed to be like damage, big deal, every single step of the way. And that ending scene of the car chase where he's upside down and then the slow walk towards him, which someone pointed out. There's a reason he walks slowly. It's because he's recording everything so that he can go back and watch it later. That didn't occur to me until I saw it on Twitter. Like,
that's a really good point.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like,
I didn't think about that till you said it.
I'm short-circuiting right now.
Yeah, like
You're welcome, Kevin.
wow.
I wish I could remember the person that put it on Twitter. Because that is a revelation for the entire movie.
Yeah,
That's good. That before your number 1, like that scene where he's got Selena using those and going around, like that tension in that is
It's
so good.
That entire club scene first.
Oh yeah.
But my number 1 scene is, like I've already said, the moment between Batman and Edward and Ashton. I was a little disappointed that it wasn't Enigma.
That would have been a little too on the nose.
A little bit, yet.
But so it's specific, like the specific jail scene.
Yes, that one. From the very moment that the screen goes up and he's just like, "Look at you," which was all of us.
I yes, yes,
exactly. That was such excellent acting altogether on both sides. Like, especially the line of, "You're not as smart as I thought you were."
Never meet your hero, kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Never meet your hero.
And just Paul Dano being freaking insane. Like, if you enjoyed his craziness as the Riddler, go back and watch the Denis Villeneuve movie Prisoners, because he is crazy in that as well.
Nice.
And he does very good.
On the list.
Oh,
good for him.
100%. But yeah, those were my 2, and that was what kind of set off the noticing of the quarter turn staring.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's my top 3 things. What about you, Kev?
So I'd say number 3. Good segue.
Right.
My top 3 would be the third act, like the final scene, with the fighting the Riddler's henchmen, and I only say that's number 3 because by the time you get to that point in the movie, I didn't realize, like, oh, this is the climax. Got it. Because like it said, it doesn't follow the prototypical comic book formula. It's a thriller. So
yeah.
By the time you get to that point, it really caught me off guard. I was like, whoa, we're here. Okay. 2, the hospital scene between Alfred and Bruce, for reasons I've already specified. Number 1, the opening of the film. Everything from the narration to the use of every shadow being a question of, like, what's down there. Like, and then, finally the Skull Gang actually looking down a shadow and, oh, you're boned.
Right. This shadow chose you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love the use of that because, again, this Batman feels very tactile and less ninja, more using the elements around him in a way, and I love the use of just walking out of the shadows. That's just really cool. So yeah, here's my top 3.
Good stuff. Charlie, what?
What?
Y'all are trying to put me out of the MC
It's
job,
true.
and I don't appreciate
Well, I
it.
was just going to say it's paralleled with the first time we see the Riddler walking out of the shadows. Like that's an excellent scene.
Yeah.
as well.
Oh yeah, that's
Charlie?
good.
Yeah.
My turn.
Can he go now?
Yes.
Okay.
My
All right, so
It's all jest.
So I think number 3 for me, well, it's probably gonna be it's at the end of the movie when lifting the little boy up and him looking in the light, 2 is the chase scene.
Oh yeah.
And when he's out slow walking, and I wanted to be like Will Ferrell in The Elf. It made me so excited. I wanted to stand up and scream, "It's Batman!" So yeah, that and then number 1 is in the beginning when the Riddler is standing behind the mayor, and you don't know it until he moves, and you're like, "Oh God." I mean, it was
quite the cold
terrifying.
open.
It was
Yeah.
terrifying.
It's a horror movie scene.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then he's just standing there looking straight ahead while he walked back and forth. And you're like, oh God.
I mean, it's such an allegory for his presence in the film. Always watching. Always watching.
Matt Reeves knows how to mess with tension.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
For sure.
So
good stuff.
Justus? Oh.
If y'all don't stop, I only have so many joys in life, and one of them is telling people when to say things, apparently. So
we love you, John. That's why we're picking on you, my friend. We love you.
Justus, say things.
All right. My 3 top things. And man, I'm gonna try to. Some of these, well, one of these might tie, or 2 of these might tie. But the detective stuff, I can't say it enough. The detective stuff was the biggest thing for me because that is the thing that I wanted to see for the longest time. I mean, I grew up with reading the Batman comics, and all of the titles that he had, those were the things that I looked for, and I feel like that was the one that was never portrayed to my liking in any of the movies. I mean, I know that in the one with Val Kilmer, they were, the Riddler and stuff like that, and he would figure out the riddle and stuff like that, but not to this extent. Even with him just walking on a crime scene, the first thing he pointing out, like, hey, over here, there's this thumb, blah, 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 all this other stuff, thumb drive, So I was like, yo, that's that right there. That is what I want to see. I was super, super, super stoked for that. So that is a thing for me. The Easter eggs in this movie were like, it's a lot of little things. Like, I mean, what's his name? The guy that played in Titans. If you watch Titans, Jay like Kirk, I think his name is. He played Robin, or he won't say Jason Todd.
Tim Drake.
Tim Drake, yes. He played him. He was in the beginning of the movie, and then you got little things all the way around there. Those little pays of homage to like Hush, and Batman Year One and stuff like that were all through the movie. Even the reporter, I was telling you about that in the movie. The reporter's name was Thomas Elliott in this movie. His character's name is Thomas Elliott. I did not find out if he was the same reporter or the same person that played the reporter from the other Batman, but that Thomas Elliott was in Hush. That name was in Hush. When a different person in comic book than it was in like the animated movie, but that was in there, and I was like, yo, it's crazy. But so many things I'm just seeing in the movie, it was crazy. And then maybe a tie between the building jump scene and seeing him, that was that Batman Year One type stuff where you like, okay, he like, I'm scared.
Mhm.
You're like, this is high. Like, this is high. Like, because you never see that type of thing. So at
Right.
some point, I'm like, he had to have been like, yo, this is high. I gotta jump off this thing.
Yeah.
Ain't nowhere else to go. I'm here now. So
That rough landing with the bus too, man. Like,
Oh,
I don't think that we were supposed
Man.
to laugh, but like we laughed
yeah.
uproariously
Yeah.
at that moment.
Yeah, but the tie, I want to say tie between that, because that was so epic to me, and the interrogation scene. There were so many things in the interrogation scene. I don't want to point all of them out, but the him not knowing if he was going to point out who he really was, the change between that and when he find out that, okay, he don't know who I really am, and how his whole confidence went through the roof. That was hilarious to me. He was like, oh, he don't know who I am. I can talk.
You're nothing. Right. Yeah.
Yo, but that's the thing that was big for me, because that kind of shed light on, again, his intelligence and him understanding how psychology works and stuff like that. He was like, I'm going to break this man. And he called him every bad thing in the book. They're like, you suck at life, basically. And that changed the Riddler's whole, way of thinking and stuff like that. And now he's going crazy. So blah, blah, blah. But there was so many things in that scene that I like. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's my way to get 4.
You managed to work it in there.
Overachiever.
Yeah, there's a tie between two of them.
It's a good rival for
MC's pet.
the Joker scene in Dark Knight for sure.
Yeah.
No,
We do love
this is the MC's pet. This is the MC's pet. Piglet has Batman opinions too, but we're not gonna give her the mic. I will say my thought process was literally just the first 3 things that I could think of, because I just believed in myself that if these 3 things come up, then clearly they've stuck with me. And I do sense a trend that I just really like watching this Batman walk. Because
Those boots were made for walking.
so my first one, or my third one, however you want to measure it, is the hallway scene just before confronting Selina and Falcone, right? Elevator dings, opens up, and he just comes through pitch black, only lit by the firing of shells. Like,
That was beautiful.
From just a scene standpoint, and the technicality that went into making that happen, amazing. But the execution is so well. The sound design, that is one of a few scenes that really make this Batman feel heavy. And I mean, like it in how he impacts the villains and everything. Like, it's intense. I really love it.
Yes.
Rivals Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One, I think.
Yes.
Then my number 2 is the intro. When, like you said, the even the audience is, all right, what bad guy is he going to stop? What corner is he going to jump out of, right? But that just slow, steady walk of his with the heavy boot fall and everything, and just that first real look at Batman, and instantly, who are you? And just getting his face wailed on, like, oh my gosh,
Oh yeah,
so good. And there's a lot more in that scene, obviously, like the spectator, the civilian being like, hey, don't hurt me, I'm not, like,
right.
It definitely comes from a more intense place, but it's just hard not to love it. And then the car chase is definitely my number 1, and that one, although I didn't put a lot of thought into this list, I know that one's my number 1, even if I had thought about it, because oh my gosh, I did not expect it to be so good in execution. One of the sexiest Batmobiles since 1989.
I love how it sounds.
It's amazing. And just the intensity of every, like, Gotham nightlife is going on while these guys are just trying to chase each other down and everything. The fact that all of that is practical, the amount of, like, mounted camera use that they very wisely use to get the penguin, responding to that vehicle coming through the flames and everything.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
The fact that Matt Reeves specifically cites Christine as inspiration makes perfect sense.
Yep.
And then again, it ends with my favorite thing about this movie, apparently, the long walk by Batman.
And then peekaboo.
Right. Capped off by a peekaboo. Yeah, I just love it. And I was a little skeptical at first of especially the Batmobile, but they made it work so well.
Yeah, that was one.
I got chills when it cranked cranked up. You know.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was afraid that they showed too much in the trailer. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut, but we ain't gonna go where I wanted to go with that.
They had a lot more to show for sure.
Absolutely.
Last thing I'll ask before we wrap up: did this change anybody's Bat rankings? Did this move anybody down in the list? Did this become a number one for anybody, or where are we at?
It changed for me.
Oh,
it knocked Keaton down.
Ooh!
Wow!
Justice with the big look. Man,
it knocked Keaton down to second place for me. Keaton can redeem himself.
I was gonna say we're getting some more Keaton here soon.
Right. Yeah,
but like I told you earlier, and you and I talked about it. It made me feel like I was seeing Batman for the first time. And I haven't felt that way. I haven't felt that way about any other Batman, period, other than Keaton. Because that was the first one I ever saw.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, apart from Adam West, I don't consider him to be. He wasn't in the movie. He wasn't in the movies. He was a TV show. There's a difference.
He was a very specific generation's Batman.
Right. Yeah. The Bright Knight.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so yes, Robert Pattinson is now my favorite. I am Team Edward.
Oh gosh, let's not bring that back. Let's not go that far. All right, Justus, clearly you have some opinions. So,
man, I don't. I mean, I have some opinions, but I don't even know if I could say what's my favorite. I mean, again, you got the Bruce Wayne, you got the Batman thing. Bruce, man, Michael Keaton is still gonna be my favorite looking Batman. Now that's Michael Keaton. That's himself. Again, the eyebrows, man. I mean, it's the thing. So Robert Pattinson, I'm gonna go ahead and jump on the train.
Yeah,
Pattinson, man, let's do it. He does, his Bruce Wayne does not look like what I would like him to look like.
Okay.
Let me say that.
You didn't have an emo phase. So.
Yeah, he has emo body.
Mm.
When they had the shirtless scene, I was disappointed. I was upset.
Okay. Someone told me he has goth boy strength.
I told you that, and I stand by that statement because goth boy strength is an entirely different kind of strength from anything else. You've
right. Oh, you can't move that wreckage. Let me in there. Let me at it. Hair flip, MCR in the background. Like, let's go.
When you need to fight somebody at a Circle Jerks concert, like you go for the goth boy. That's where you go because they're scrappy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Back me up on this.
Well, no. The skinny ones in a mosh pit will mess you up more than the bigger ones. I'll tell you that because they're faster. You can't even see those hits coming.
Exactly.
There's just a pale light, and then next thing I knew, I was out.
Pretty much. The only hope you have is to just pick them up and carry them out of there.
Right.
Yeah, it's usually how it goes, right?
If you can get to a piano, play the first few notes of Black Parade, that might get you out of it. But you never know.
It'll distract them. I don't know, man. So like, I don't necessarily rank films in the traditional sense. It's more like how much am I looking forward to a rewatch, right? So there are definitely Batman films that fit that mold, like The Dark Knight Rises. I usually can't wait to watch that again. Batman v Superman's up there, Mask of the Phantasm. So this film is definitely high up in that scale, in which that, like, when it comes time to rewatch it, there's going to be a palpable sense of like, yeah, let's go, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing. It's like any other film. It's like, I mean, I like a whole lot of stuff, but there's some stuff that when it comes time to rewatch that, I'm like, yeah, let's go. You
Yeah.
know? So the Batman definitely ranks up there. Like, I cannot wait to dig into this one again.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Hey, a little over a month on HBO Max. It'll be back in your living
The
room.
19th.
Gonna be
The
amazing.
19th.
Looking
yeah.
forward to it.
Um,
What about you? I don't think you've shared yet how you feel.
Like Kev, I don't rank movies just out of need for mental health. But man, I love emo Batman so much. I am an appreciator of the goth boy, and he did not dethrone Michael Keaton as my favorite Batman because, like Charlie said, you never forget your first. Like, that was my first Batman, and he will always be Batman in my mind.
Mhm.
However, he was my favorite Bruce Wayne. I love to see sad boy, angry Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
And I think this is the first time that's really been explored. Like, he wasn't a playboy, he wasn't a genuine rich guy. 14 karat gold.
wasn't a smooth talker. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like not just like flashbacks to the scene,
Exactly.
but like genuinely not okay.
He was traumatized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about Pattinson's Bruce Wayne. And I think he does that so freaking well. And you know what? He's up there.
I'll give you that.
Definitely up there.
I do and don't rank in this situation. I do because I do feel like especially after this journey right through watching the live action Bat films, the solo ones at least, and I know Snyder's Bat flick has been mentioned, but as far as Batman movies, going through this journey has been really interesting. I've shared, I think, on the podcast before, and certainly with a few of you, like this is the season. 2022 is the year apparently where my opinions change. I revisited the X-Men movies, I revisited the Fantastic Four movies, and I have a lot of opinions that will likely end up on a microphone at some point.
Yes. You do.
But they've definitely changed, and that's
Right.
weird. And Batman is no different, apparently. And so for me, Pattinson right now does kind of sit at my number one. I love you, Justus.
Y'all disrespectful. That's what it is. Rude.
So for me, it's a lot of, number one, it's more time with Batman and Bruce. However you want to identify them or separate them. Like this time around, they really make this a personal story and yet also a hero story.
Mhm.
And I think it's everything down from the technical level of how they built this Batman, the world in which he is, and also just how Pattinson brings him to life. I don't think this is, so what I'll say is the reason I liked Keaton's Batman is because of Keaton. Hands down.
Same.
He made that.
Same.
In this situation, it's a lot of Pattinson and his choices as an actor, but it's also a lot of other stuff. It's a lot of there's more than just him involved in making this Batman for me. And that again just makes it, whereas everything was on Keaton's shoulders before, this isn't on one actor to bring to life. It's as much Matt Reeves as it is the costume designers, as it is the composer as well. A very excellent theme for this Batman.
Yep.
And so it's just a lot in his favor for sure. Similarly, I really, really like Bale. I'd always very much held it at, all right, that's a very grounded, very realistic. But the personal journey that he goes on, I really, really enjoy, even if it's just talking about Batman Begins.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that to, upon rewatch, become my favorite Nolan Batman film, but it is. And that alone makes him kind of my second. And that puts Keaton at 3 for me. So like my whole top 3 completely changed.
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming, but it kind of happened, and it doesn't. Keaton's as good as he is. It's just that the storytelling, the characterization, and
You hate fun.
the level of work from the actors involved, it's a little bit more now than it was in 1989.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
You know,
I mean, it's again, it's the seriousness of the material, right? Like, I mean, like you said earlier, Matt Reeves he's one of us, man. He's a nerd.
Mm.
And, you know, you give someone who's a nerd and you're like, hey, you get to make a Batman movie.
right?
Like, imagine how in depth you would get with it, you know, how granular you would get with it because you have such reverence for the material and you just want to make the best Batman story, you know, and we're all benefiting.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, very similarly, it's a situation with like The Last Jedi, where
Mhm.
I don't think there's been someone that's gotten Star Wars quite like George Lucas until Ryan Johnson. And I mean, in the context of film, Dave Filoni is fantastic. You know, The Clone Wars is great. The Mandalorian, all of that's well and good. But as far as film goes, Ryan Johnson is the best nerd to ever helm Star Wars so far.
I'm right there with you.
And it's that same situation of like, he has the benefit of years of retrospect. He has a lot more money. He's gotten time to think of this since the schoolyard. Like, that's gonna add something. So Empire Strikes
Mhm.
Back is still very, very special to me, but it doesn't hold a candle emotionally to The Last Jedi. So it's the same thing of like 89 is still an excellent and amazing film. Batman Returns is arguably the better of the two Burton helmed films. For me, but by comparison of what, you know, almost 40 years of work has gone into this current film, it's really hard to compare and not get lost in the nostalgia for sure.
Sure.
I'll say now, it's been a good run, guys. We've had a great show so far. We are now canceled. I regret to inform you. for
Right.
Putting.
We've gotten
that
two
number
people to
3.
say that Keaton's not the best Batman, so the apocalypse is upon us.
Oh.
But no, seriously, like the Flash is coming. Already seen glimpses of him in an slightly updated but still very 89 suit. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
gonna be the best part of the Flash for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I mean,
And that's the thing. The 40 years of advancement is going to benefit him too next year when that film comes out, because even though he's still going to be Keaton's Batman, there's going to be new layers added on because
Sure.
you know that's just how time works.
he's going to get more stuff to chew on, more
Yes.
substantive stuff to chew on.
Absolutely. And so yeah, I mean, I think whoever your favorite Batman is perfectly valid if it's personally important to you. You know, don't get lost in the sauce on rankings and whatnot, but definitely if you haven't, give yourself the mental gymnastics of trying to figure out your favorites and why. Because if anything, it tells you a lot about yourself, which Batman you prefer.
Yep.
Too
I will
true.
say.
Yeah.
Well, I've
and-
got some stuff to unpack then.
exactly. We all, so go to therapy, right? Exactly.
I definitely need to go therapy.
Therapy is good
Everybody
for
does.
everyone. Yes, I highly recommend it.
This
for
is my
everyone.
therapy.
We are not licensed.
But agreed.
I will take your money though.
That is true.
This has been
send you my
wonderful,
Venmo.
unprofessional therapy,
Yep.
and no less thanks to you guys, each of you, man, for every time you've shown up on the show, and especially this one. It's been fantastic. So thank you for your time, and of course, for our listeners, this won't be the last time you hear any of these voices or see any of these faces. We love these people, and we will have them on because much like us, they love many of things. They might not like it as much as Batman, but they do like other things. And as far as their standards are low, we'll take advantage of it and have them on the show.
Hey, that's
Hey,
right.
Drunken, bro.
hey, look,
Drunken.
talent.
There you go.
Yeah, and so listeners, watchers, however you find yourself consuming this podcast, if you liked it, be sure to like it or rate it wherever it is. That goes a long way, and it just makes me feel good.
Yeah.
If you really liked it, consider sharing it. Get it in the ear holes of other people, with or without their consent.
For the heart holes.
Respectfully, of course.
Yes, If you can
Perfect.
get the Nerd Herder podcast into the cockles of their heart, that would be fantastic.
I'm pretty sure you have a rumor of some kind.
Again, a reminder, we are off next week. It's going to feel weird for us too. This has been so much fun the last few months. Something great to look forward to every Friday. But we are taking a break due to some other in real life stuff that's going to pull us away. But we'll be back hot and ready to talk about some Star Wars special editions
Excuses.
on April 1st. It's
It's
not a
true.
joke, folks. We are special edition lovers.
We are apologists and enjoyers
you
of the
know,
special editions.
George made some questionable choices, but adding those CGI Womp Rats was not one of them. And so
Joyosa.
we're going to be rounding out a great guest list out April 1st to talk about what we love about the special editions and why we would hope you love them as well.
Exactly.
Thanks to our patrons and our all of their faithful support, and thank you to our lovely Bat guests. It has been real, but for now, we will be putting Bat Chat to a rest, at least until we get a sequel to this, another Bat film. Who knows? But for now, the Bat Chat goes into the Bat Cave until Joseph Gordon-Levitt, aka Robin Blake, shows up to unearth it, wear it, and do something with it. I'm still waiting. I would love in the Flash multiverse if we get a nod to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Batman, because
Batman Beyond.
man, it should have been. It should have been. In another world, we got Batman Beyond with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Would have been great.
But for now, we've gotten what we've gotten. I think the Batman's great. If you haven't checked out any of our other Bat Chat episodes, please do so. We might change your mind about Schumacher even. But we had a great time with all these great people all along the way. So without further ado, on the count of 3, everybody give us your best I Am Vengeance. 1, 2, 3.
Wait a minute. You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.